Hello, welcome to episode 26 of the Craft House Magic Podcast. Thanks ever so much for listening today. Today is the 19th of October. That is not a good start. But you can find me as Craft House Magic on all the social medias. I'll pop links in the down bar if you want to follow those. Just makes life easier. So hello, how is everybody? It's nearly Halloween, really looking forward to that. It'd be so nice. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast last year, but the children on this street, they all dress up and go around the houses. They are so cute. Some of the little 2-year-olds. Ah! I try and dress up the house, but nothing too scary to scare the little ones. I'm sure they're tougher than me though, to be honest. So we've got 2 knit alongs still going along. The happy along is basically to knit lots of Christmas gifts and gifts for other festivals if you don't celebrate Christmas, and things that make you happy generally. So if you pop over to the thread, you can see loads of lovely things that people have been knitting. I noticed that there was some socks with Christmas trees on, which I can't think of the name right now, which I mentioned in the last podcast. But I saw those on the thread and I'm going to knit those at some point. So there's lots of inspiration. Hopefully I'll have put that name on the screen because my brain is just completely like a sieve. And we've also got the doodle along. So it's finishing at the end of October, the doodle along. And we've all been knitting the Doodler shawl by Stephen West. I finished mine, but it just gives people a little bit more time to finish up their shawls because I think 2 months is a bit tight to knit a shawl in, so it's nice relaxed. So you've still got till the end of October to submit your finished objects. So it's been lovely seeing everybody chatting about what they've been knitting with the happy along and doodle along, so please join in if you fancy it. So I've been popping up some new tutorials on my channel. I hope that you've enjoyed them. So the last set I did was about the Cozy Memories blanket, and there seemed to be quite a good reception, especially for the first video, but someone said that the second video about how to join your squares wasn't quite detailed enough. I'd love to hear what you think if you've had a watch. So that's the admin done. We've got lots of knitting today. Well, not that much. To be honest, I don't feel as if I've done that much since the last podcast, probably because I've been to a Comic-Con again and the Knitting and Stitching show, which I'll chat to you about at the end. So we've got some knitting, some dyeing, some sewing in the form of dressmaking, some bobbin lace, normal blast from the Past and Gadget. We've got a few confessions since I've been to the Knitting and Stitching show. To be honest, I'm really quite proud of myself that I haven't bought that much, considering I was at a show all day. So I've been very good. I've got a couple of questions for the Ask Me Anything. And then I've decided to call the news section at the end, where I chat about what I've been up to sort of in my just everyday life, like going to Norcon and the Knitting and Stitching show, called a section called What's Occurring. Now this is based on a programme called Gavin and Stacey, and there was a lady called Nessa on the programme that used to go, "What's occurring?" in a Welsh accent. So I decided to call this section What's Occurring. So I'll have a little chat about what I've been up to, and then there's a little summary about shop update of one of the bags that I've put in the shop since the last podcast. But the next... I'm going quite a lot today. So the next update for the shop will be on the 1st of November. Well, I'll talk a bit more about that at the end if you're not so interested. So we better get on to the knitting. So I've got a finished object today, and that's a pair of socks. I don't think I started these on the last podcast. So these are knitted, oops. These are knitted for some dye I'd yarned. Some yarn I dyed, which I showed you on the last episode, and I just knitted some vanilla socks there just to sort of test out the yarn. And actually it's come out quite nice and it's not pulled too badly. I'm quite pleased with that. So there's some purples and blues in there. So I just cast on 64 stitches, did a 2x2 rib, knitted till it was about the length that I wanted it to be, and then I did a slip stitch heel, decreased to 64 stitches again, and then I've done a normal sort of medium wedge toe. So I'm quite pleased with how those come out. So the point of me knitting these socks was to test out this base that I'd got. So this is a cashmere merino nylon mix that I'd sort of bought to try out and dye. But I don't know if I'm that pleased with it, because I know that I've knitted like a whole pair of socks, but I had 2 fluffy bits in there, which I don't know if I can see it now, to be honest. But because there was 2 bits of fluffy yarn in there, it's kind of put me off using it as a base to sell on the shop. So we'll see. I'm going to be testing some more, and I have a little bit more dyeing to show you this time, so I'll show you that a little bit later. So I also have a half-finished object, and it's my Teasel socks by Teresa Shingler, and it's got this gorgeous sort of flowery, I think it's called the blossom stitch, just there, so that's really pretty, and it's got a really nice textured stitch all around the foot. I did actually make a mistake. I decreased too quickly on the toe because I was watching the TV at the same time, but it fits my foot, so I'm not going to change it. So that's one sock finished. It looks kind of a bit baggier than normal because it's not, because it's a sort of open stitch, but it does fit my foot really, really nicely, so I'm really pleased with those. So the yarn is also called Teasel, and it's by Teresa Shingler as well, so you can actually buy the yarn and the pattern on Teresa's Etsy shop. If you're interested. I really enjoyed knitting these. It's got a nice textured stitch all the way down the foot, which I actually made a mistake on that row, if you can notice. But don't look too closely. So there we go, that's my half finished object. We're starting with a lot of socks this time, aren't we? So now I'm going to go on to my proper works in progress. So I've done quite a bit of work on my Cozy Memories blanket. So on the last podcast I'd knitted up to there, but I've done a whole row and 3 squares. So I'm going to try and tell you what each of the yarns are. So these were swapped with me. That doesn't make sense. These were gifted to me in a swap from the lovely Julie and Elsie, which I mentioned on the last podcast episode. And actually they'd given me a lot of those yarns on the row before as well. So we have, this one is a fondant fibre yarn, and it's called Dusty Petticoats, and it's on the MCN base, which is called Austin, which Deb dyes up. This one here is Yorkshire Dale yarn, and it's part of a mini set that Julie and Elsie had. I'm afraid I don't know what this one is because I seem to have lost the label, but that one was lovely too. This one is another fondant fibre, and this one is called Sea Holly on the Hannah base. That's really pretty. Oh, this is a really nice shade as well. So this one is called A Little Bit Sheepish, and it's a BFL and nylon base. And I think the colourway is called Cerise. There we go. This one is hand dyed by Jude, or made by Jude, sorry, and that's really pretty. And that's in the Aurora colourway. And then lastly, this is a Manos del Uruguay in the Sabo colourway. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's not actually lastly, I've got another 3 to tell you about. So this one here is by Truly Hooked, and it is in the Poi Shell colourway, I think. There we go. And this one is, oh, you can see there's some ends I haven't sewn in. This is a Paper Stories in the Rita Skeeter colourway. And lastly, this is another fondant fibre, but I'm afraid I can't remember what it's called because I've left the ticket somewhere. I have actually knitted it in before, just here, so if you watch the last episode you'll find out what it is, but they're really pretty. So I'm not going to be able to hold this up properly because I haven't got a full row. But there we go, it's growing. I can hardly hold it up high enough. Oh dear. So Cozy Memories blanket addiction. Oh dear. I had to ban myself from finishing the row because it was just taking over all my knitting time. Hence the lack of different projects that I've been working on. So that was the Cozy Memories blanket. I have also done a little bit of work on my Gonyov shawl, but I'm not going to show you that because it was only about that much, so I'll save that till the next podcast. Hopefully I'll have done like this much. That'll be really good. I was going to tell you about my new cast on. So, literally a whole year ago I bought this yarn. I'll show you it in the hank because it looks really pretty. So this is from a shop called Ginger Twist Studios, and it's called, there we go, there's a card, and this base is called Yakety Yak 4-ply, and it's 60% merino, 20% yak and 20% silk, so it is super soft. And I can't remember if I bought 3, I think I've got 3 hanks. Oh, and it's in the Might As Well Be Spring colourway. And I bought it last year when I went up to Edinburgh to visit my friend because it was her wedding. So this is a very wonderful memories of that sort of weekend. So it was lovely. So I've cast it on. Now this looks a bit scooched up. I shall try and, there we go. This is what it's looking like so far. As you can tell, it's a garment. So this is going to be the Water Lily, and I can't remember. The Water Lily is by Megan Fernandez, and it is such a pretty top. I shall pop a picture up here to show you what it looks like. It is gorgeous. I wound the yarn, caked the yarn up last year to cast it on, and I just kind of put it off because I had to do little squares, what do you call them? Gauge squares, swatches, that's the word. Today words aren't coming to me, so I did a couple of different swatches to see how the yarn came out, and I decided to go up a needle size because I'm quite a tight knitter. I did actually I washed the swatches as well, so it will definitely come out the right size. So the Water Lily pattern is actually straight knit normally, but what I'm going to do is shape it a little bit to go into the waist, because when you're a larger lady like me, you've got to make the most of every curve, otherwise you just look like a big block. So I've calculated the gauge for my hips, worked how much I needed to go into my waist, and then I've worked out what I needed to decrease on which row. So I will let you know how I get on with that. But that is really exciting. I'm definitely going to knit more garments this year. It's going to be amazing the amount of garments I'm going to knit. That's probably not going to be true. I think I've had too much sugar this morning. Oh dear. So I'd seen on Ava's podcast, The Charm of It, that she'd knitted these gorgeous mittens called the Lepidoptera knits, and they had these moths that were knitted into them in colour work. Now I think I'd seen the original pattern online, but Ava's mittens were absolutely gorgeous. She'd used sort of the opposite colours, so where they'd used dark, she'd used light. Where they used light, she used dark. So I've decided to do the same sort of thing but in slightly different colours. Now I'm going to try not to buy any more yarn, so I've picked up these 2 Knit Picks 4-ply yarns, just in a dark grey and a light grey, that I'd actually used these to do my other mittens that were striped mittens by Badagak. So I'm going to be using my stash, which is good. So I'm going to knit those. What I'm going to try and do is get my socks finished off the needles before I cast on a new project, because I don't like to cast on too many things at once, and I'm trying to be good. You never know, I might just end up casting them on anyway. Right, so that's all the knitting that I've been up to, which is quite pitiful for usual. I think I need to do some more knitting, but I've just been doing some more messing around with the dies. Now I have done more than this, but this is just a few of them that I've got to show you. So I've just been messing around with these 50-gram hanks, really, just to see what the bases are like. Just show you, they're actually slightly damp still because I only did them yesterday. So I did some little speckles on like a mauve base there. I'm just messing around with the speckles some more just to see what I can come out with. I've tried to do some really tiny little micro speckles there, but that's quite a lot of fun. And I played with some greens and blues as well, so that was really nice. So these are different bases that I've been trying out from different manufacturers just to see how they dye up, and I'm going to knit with them as well before I dye them up for the shop. But I'm really planning on having a range of hand-dyed yarns in my shop as well as the bags that I sell. So I'm really chuffed with those. I'm hoping to get yarn in the shop by the 1st of November. Well, that's when the next shop update is. If not, it will be the 1st of December. So at the moment I'm doing a shop update once a month with 1 or 2 little bits and bobs that I add before then. So that's been loads of fun. I think I'm quite impressed with this base because it's like a high twist merino. I'm really liking the way that looks, and it's sort of puffy enough but not without being too sort of heavy for a 4-ply really. And I really like this one as well, which is not a high twist. This is a merino nylon as well, but I really like how that sort of looks. But you can never tell until you knit with it, I don't think. It's so surprising. So that's what I've been up to with my dyeing. So we should get on to some sewing. So thankfully I finished my shirt dress. Barbara, will you come and show us? So Barbara's showing my finished shirt dress. I'm actually really pleased with it. I decided to go for some sort of grey buttons in the end. See if I can get them a bit closer to the camera. That sort of merge in with the fabric, because I wanted to be able to wear different belts and with it, and just to be able to dress it up, dress it down. So I might make another one of these. But I did have quite a lot of faff with getting it to fit. So because this dress has cup sizes built into the patterns, you could pick the cup size for you. So I thought I'm not going to do a muslin or anything. I'm just going to go for it. Probably should have done one really. So I had issues. Barbara's still a bit squeaky with this part here being too bagged out when I got it on, because my hips sort of pushed the waistband up a little bit. So I had to actually unpin all of, well, the back of the waistband and take that up about 1 inch to get rid of some of the fabric. But then I also had to undo all the side seams, which were done in, they were French seams, so they took a bit of a while to unpick. And I unpicked the sleeves as well, and I took that about 1 inch in, either all the way down here and up the sleeve. So I had to unpick quite a bit and sew it back up again. But I'm pleased I did it because it fits much better. And also I shortened the sleeve a little bit as well, because I just like the style of a shorter sleeve better. But now I've adapted the pattern pieces, I should be able to replicate it. And I think, oh well, this is what my idea is to make a crazy Christmas dress. Basically, a wacky Christmas print fabric, but in a shirt dress for Christmas Day, because that's what you need. I did have a look for fabric at the Knitting and Stitching show, but I didn't see any that was quite right. And I may make a shirt for Adam to match. How cool would that be? I just need some schwants to go with it. Did anybody watch the videos that Stephen West put in? I think it was a couple of years ago. Have a look on YouTube for schwants dance, Stephen West. It is hilarious. Anyway, off the point. So yes, I'm really pleased with the fit now, and I think I'd probably make some more. I do fancy making a shirt dress though, with more of an elastic waist, and there are a couple of shirt patterns out there that I might be interested in a little bit later. But I'm really pleased. I especially liked making the collar because it's quite crisp. I noticed on Barbara, because her neck is sort of somehow thicker at the back, how this happens, I don't know, for a dummy. Sorry Barbara, I shouldn't call you a dummy. It sort of makes the neck lie funny because this won't go close enough to the neck somehow. I don't know, it lays better on me. I shall pop some pictures up here to show you what it looks like on me. But thanks, Barbara, for giving us a demonstration. I'm really pleased with how it came out, even though I had to adjust it. It did take me like half a day to unpick and sew it all back up again. But I think it was worth it. Thanks, Barbara! I have actually started to cut out another pattern. So this will be in my confessions, really, but I cut out a top called the Springfield top from the Cashmerette range, but I'll talk to you a bit about in the confession section because I think that goes there better. So I've been buying a few patterns. So we on to the next section, bobbin lace. Just to lean over and get my huge cushion. So I spoke to you last time about how I wanted to do a butterfly. I might just have to move my pin cushion so you can see it a little bit better. So I've started on the wing, and I've done the body section in grey, and I've started on the wing in a pale pink, and this is a half stitch wing that I've done because I like the sort of open weave that it gives. There are some sections, if I can point at the same time, in the middle of this wing that I haven't completed yet, which I'm going to do in a darker pink. They're called leaves, the technique, because it sort of is like a small little leaf. It's a bit heavy, this cushion. So they'll be in a darker pink, and hopefully I'll be able to show you a whole butterfly by the next episode. That didn't actually take very long. I think in total what I've done so far has taken about 4 hours. So hopefully get it done by next time. I'm going to need a little bit of help from my bobbin lace tutor just to finish off some of the bits. There's a couple of tricky little sew-ins that you have to do where you have to loop a loop of thread through where you've already done the bobbin lace into tiny little holes, which is a bit of a nightmare. But we can do it. So that's my bobbin lace. And we're going to go into the blast from the past. Now, I made a cushion ages ago. This is what I sit on to do my podcasts normally, so I haven't got a cushion underneath me today. So this is a patchwork cushion that I made absolutely ages ago, and it's made out of one of those little mini charm packs that I picked up from my local fabric store, and I used some just plain cream cotton. This is all like Moda solids. I really like the Moda solids. They're a nice quality material. It's really nice and smooth. So I did like a stitch on my machine all the way around of little houses, and then I've done stitching across the little patchwork as well. And if I can find, I used my machine stitch to do little stitches in some of the solid squares too. And then I did and I've put an invisible zip in, but not very well, because obviously I didn't know how to do them when I made this, because it's quite a few years ago. I did actually make a tutorial of how to make up these patchwork squares in a really easy little way, and I've put the tutorial up on my website, crafthousemagik.co.uk, if you're interested. I filled the cushion with some alpaca that I'd had, because I'd been collecting some alpaca that wasn't good enough grey to spin with, so it's good to put inside the cushion. So that's a good use of waste alpaca, because you can't throw away alpaca, can you? Just pops it under the bench there. Right, so let's go into our gadget section. So this is a very common gadget that I'm sure everybody's got, but I wanted to tell you a bit about what I have. So these are my rotary cutters. I do actually have another one, but I thought it would be ridiculous to show you any more. So this is my favourite one. This is an Alpha rotary cutter, and this is the newest design because it's sort of smoother and easier to hold. This is the older design that they came out with, and it's not quite as nice to hold if you're doing a lot of cutting. So this is my favourite. I actually use this cutter for cutting paper, which is handy. So I've kept the blade just for paper so that I can cut straight lines and use my ruler to cut paper as well. Because they always say don't use your rotary cutter that you cut fabric with to do paper with. So why not have two? So that's ideal. I also have a little tiny one, which is great for cutting out smaller shapes, but it does require a bit of sort of control while you're cutting it. But it is very useful. So those are my rotary cutters. I thought I'd tell you a bit about what rotary blades I use. There's a shop online called Barn Yarns. They also go to a lot of the shows like the Knitting and Stitching show and the Festival of Quilts in the UK, where you can get these rotary cutting blades from. Now these are a lot cheaper than the Alpha blades that that the company who make the actual handle sell. I think you get one blade for £8 here, but these Barn Yarn blades are about £3.50 for two. Now I wouldn't say that these lasted quite as long as the expensive Alpha blades, but you get two in the packet, and I quite often run over pins and things, so it damages the blade anyway, so they get wrecked quicker. So I definitely recommend these. Really useful and cheap. So that's my gadget for this time, and we're on to confessions. I have been so good. You would never believe that I was in a show for a whole day. And actually, all the fabric I bought was dressmaking fabric because I was on the hunt for some good stuff. So the first one I got is a lovely floral print, and this one was from Girl Charlie Fabrics. They have an online shop as well, and I had my eye on this when I saw it online, but I hadn't felt the fabric in real life. And once I had, I thought, yes, I need a metre of this. So this is going to be some sort of t-shirt, I think. The next fabric I've got to show you is from Higgs and Higgs. They have got such lovely fabrics. A lot of their fabric is quilting fabric, but they also have a jersey range. So this is a nice stretchy jersey, which will make another top as well. I forgot to say, actually, this is also a jersey. So I think jerseys are easier to fit. You don't have to worry about bust adjustments so much. So this is a sort of a heavier weight jersey than the floral, and that's going to be gorgeous. I saw it from right across from another stall. I was like, that is what I need. I can't actually remember what stall I got this from, and they didn't give me a receipt or anything. It was from one of the cheaper fabric stores that attend the Knitting and Stitching show, and this is a very sort of lightweight drapey viscose fabric with some beautiful birds on there. I thought that would be lovely, and I actually got the last 2 meters of it, so I was really chuffed about that. I'm thinking of doing a sew over it kimono with this, but on the pattern it says you need 2.2 meters. So what I might do is cut out the pattern pieces in paper and just see if they fit on this before I start cutting them all out, you know. So we'll have to see. But those are really lovely. I'm really pleased with those. So I also got these duckbill scissors for applique, which I've been wanting some for absolutely ages because they're ideal for doing underwear making as well when you're trimming the fabric from the lace. So I'm really pleased to get some of those. They were from Madeira, the company Madeira that does a lot of the threads. So they feel really nice, so hopefully they'll be as good as they feel. So I'll let you know how I get on with those. I also bought some patterns now. This is separate from the Knitting and Stitching show. I'd seen that on Sew Over It they got 20% off patterns, so I was like, oh, I need some. So I bought 3 of their patterns. I bought the penny shirt dress, which has got an elastic waist, and I was speaking before about wanting a shirt dress with an elastic waist, so that'd be really comfy to sort of slob around the house in. So I'll pop a picture up here. I also bought the kimono from Sew Over It, which I want to do in this fabric, we'll see. And that's just a really nice, like a cardigan type of thing to put over the top of t-shirts and that, so I thought that'd be a lovely thing to wear. And thirdly, I bought the, oh goodness me, I think it's the Ava dress by Sew Over It, and it's a very drapey wrap over dress, which is gorgeous. If I've got the name wrong, I'll also put the picture up here so you know what I'm talking about. So those 3 patterns I bought from Sew Over It, but then I got a bit pattern orientated and went over to the Cashmerette website, and I bought the Springfield top, which I spoke about before, that I'd actually cut the pieces out. So I thought that that'd be a nice test to see whether my figure fits well with their sort of patterns, because it's like a little vest top, and it's made out of materials that don't stretch so that you fit it to your bust. So it'll be interesting to see how well that fits. But I haven't cut any fabric out yet, but I have 2 pieces of fabric that I have washed ready. So that will be lovely to see how that works out. I'm going to use some sort of old stash to do the first one, and then I can always adjust it and use it as a sort of wearable muslin and make a nicer one in my posh fabric that Jo gave me that I showed you quite a few episodes ago. Right, so that was my pattern haul that I've gone mad on from the last episode, since the last episode. And I also ordered some yarn. I was talking about the last episode about every time I knit so much, then I can buy some in. And since I've finished a pair of socks, I think that I can buy a new skein. Well, I've done 1.5, so yeah, I think I deserve 1. Well, I'd seen Twisted Limone do gorgeous striping yarn, and I know from Emma from Eldenwood Craft had some before, and I was like, oh, I need some of that. And she'd got an update, so I picked up one of these. How gorgeous. I don't want to use it because it's so pretty. So this is called Neon Splash in the pink colourway, and it's 75% merino, 25% nylon. And the base is called Zingy, I think. But that is lovely. So I picked that up in the last shop update. I think they're sold out, but I think it does say in the Etsy shop sort of description that if you do have any sort of requirements that you need the you can send her a message, and I think she'll make some up for you. So I'm really pleased with that. It came with a gorgeous little stitch marker, which I've put away in my stash. I'm sure I'll show it to you one of these days on the project. So that's really lovely. So that was my yarn purchases. So it's not too bad. I always say this, don't I? And I know one of you guys, Georgina, had said about Simply Sewing magazine, this edition, had got a gorgeous pattern called the Jade Dress, which she said was really neat, and you're right, I loved this, especially on the version on the back with short sleeves in that sort of floral print. So pretty. So thank you, Georgina, for letting me know. I'm really pleased about picking this up. It had also got this pattern as well for a sort of a dress that you can cinch in with a belt because it's quite open and floaty, and I think the front of the magazine, they'd got it on there as well. What edition is this? Issue 35 if you wanted to pick that up, but it had a couple of other really cute things in as well. But it's definitely worth it just for these 2 patterns. I don't always buy magazines, but if they've got some lovely patterns, I definitely like to pick them up, so thank you. I put an order into Chapelview Crafts for some of the polymer clay little progress keepers and needle minders she'd got. So I'm going to pop a picture up here rather than holding them up to the screen because you can't see them as well. So I bought a set of progress keepers that are all Christmassy themed. Well, I think there was 8 in total. And I also ordered the needle minder that I had specially requested from Cheryl to have a lovely hot chocolate and Christmas cake and mince pie and sweeties. And I also ordered a lovely piece of cake. This is actually relatively big but very, very light, so ideal for putting on your knitting. So because I put an order in for me, I ordered 2 things for you guys too, to say thank you for having 2,000 subscribers. So thank you ever so much. I also I've got a 3rd prize, so there'll be 3 prizes. This is the hand-dyed yarn that I did in the autumn colourway, and this is actually on a Knit Picks base that I picked up with a bit of a sparkle in it. So that's a Knit Picks Stroll base that I've dyed with an autumn colourway. So these 3 will be up for grabs. What I want you guys to do is make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and put a comment below which of these 3 you'd really, really like. Because I didn't want the needle minder to go to somebody who doesn't do embroidery, if you know what I mean. So I'll pick 3 winners and I'll get in contact over YouTube and send you your prizes. So thank you guys for subscribing. I can't believe there's over 2,000 subscribers. I know that lovely Tina from Simply in Stitches had sent a lot of viewers over my way, so thank you so much, Tina. But don't forget to write your comment below if you want to be in a chance for winning. So on to the next section. So we're on to Ask Me Anything. So I'd got 2 lovely questions. The first of which is from Susan Knitter 2. So thanks, Sue. She said that she's knitting, or she's just knitted, the I Heart Rainbow top by Tin Can Knits, like a jumper. And the directions said to do make 1 increases. But it did say that any will do. So she did knit front back. The stitch count was off in the end. So she emailed us the designer, and the designer said that she should use make 1 increases instead of the knit front back instead, which should make the stitch count correct. So this is what Sue did, and she ended up with the right stitch count. And she said, have you ever had this happen to you? I certainly haven't. I can't understand why knit front back is any different to make 1 in terms of stitch number. It might be because you end up with more stitches in one section than another. I don't know. That's really strange. So on question number 2, this is from So Can Jo. Thanks, Jo. This is a really cool question. So she said that she'd been listening to a recent podcast called Love to Sew. And they were asked what would be the 3 patterns that you would sew in the next year if you could only choose 3. And Jo asked me, in terms of knitting, what would I do? This is really difficult, Jo. I've just been thinking about it. I did think that maybe a vanilla sock pattern, but actually I could knit a vanilla sock pattern without a pattern, so that wouldn't count. So I think I'd have to have like a plain jumper pattern that I could perhaps adapt into a cardigan, similar to the pavement sweater, which I've got on my sort of to-do list. So I think that would be 1. I suppose like a mitten pattern that I could then adapt to fingerless, or one that converts from fingerless to having a little pouch over the top. So I think a mitten pattern, but I'd probably use the mitten pattern that we did for the knit along a little while ago. The the mittens accorded to Badagak. So that was a really nice, well-written pattern, that could be adapted. Now, what would be the 3rd? Oh, I tell you what, one of my favourite shawls, I think, was the Diane of the Light shawl by Ruth McKeon. I don't know if I'm ever say your surname correctly, Ruth. I'm really sorry. But I think that's a really lovely sort of crescent-shaped shawl that you could adapt for some different things. So I think that would be one of my favourites too. So I suppose that would be my 3 favourites. Although I find it so difficult not to knit other things. And she also had a second part to her question. Thanks, Jo. So she said, is there a craft that 1, you've tried and not enjoyed, 2, tried and not been able to master, or 3, not had tried but wanted to try? So a craft that I've tried but not really enjoyed. Oh, it's difficult. I think I've enjoyed most of the things. I think I've probably least enjoyed fused glass. I did still enjoy it, but out of all the things that I've tried, it's probably the one I've least enjoyed. And stained glass as well, that's sort of in the same thing. Just because you have to have so many different bits of glass to even sort of let your inspiration take you, if you know what I mean. So I found that a little bit restrictive. Which I probably won't do again, but it was kind of fun at the time. So that's probably not answering your question very well. Sorry, Jo. So part 2, tried but not been able to master. My theory is that if you really want to do something, you can spend the time to master it. So anything that I've really wanted to do, you just keep putting time in until you get it right, if you see what I mean. So you should never feel like lack of confidence. You can do it. You can just keep on trying. That's my theory. But I'd probably say my spinning isn't as good as I wanted it to be. That's where I sort of dabble in it in it because I'm like, oh, I don't really like how that's come out, but then I'll go back to it again. But I don't really feel as if I want to spend lots of time doing that when there are other lovely things to do. So I do like spinning, but I just get annoyed with the product in the end. So I don't think I've completely mastered it. So that's probably the best answer. And part 3, not yet tried yet, but want to. I did think of trying tatting, which I've never tried before. You use a little shuttle to make a form of lace, but I think I've not actually tried it because I already do bobbin lace. It kind of makes me not as enthusiastic to try it, but I would like to try it at some point. Thank you so much, Jo. What a brilliant set of questions to send in. So if you've got any more questions that you'd like to ask me, if you pop it into the Ask Me Anything thread in the Ravelry group, I'll try and answer as best as I can. We're on to the new section, What's Occurring? So 2 weekends ago we went over to the Norcon, which is the Norwich Comic Convention. So I showed you on previous podcasts that Adam really likes going to these sort of things, and I kind of enjoy them too. So we went to another one, and this is the Norwich one. I'll put up a couple of pictures here, and that was quite good. I don't think I enjoyed it quite as much as the one in Southampton. I think it's because in Southampton so many people were dressed up, whereas, well, the time that we went was probably quite late in the day. There wasn't so many people dressed up in the Norwich one, but that was still really fun. So they had the Ghostbusters vehicle and somebody dressed up as them, so that was really cool. They also had Kit out of Knight Rider, which was really good too. So there was quite a few interesting things to see there. Adam really liked it. And then we also went to Wells for the day and visited the beach, and I took some pictures there, so I'll pop a couple of pictures here. I was taking pictures a lot in black and white because I had a challenge on Instagram that says 7-day challenge, and you've got to take black and white photographs and put them on Instagram with no people in and no sort of comment or no explanation of what was going on. So that was quite fun to go. So I took some pictures that were in black and white on the beach and that, so that was good. And then last weekend we went to the Knitting and Stitching show. I went with my friends Rita and Jo, and we had a brilliant time. I basically said, look, we haven't got time to walk around together. I'll see you at lunch. And we went crazy, making sure we'd seen everything we wanted to do, and then we met for lunch and then at the end of the day. So that was really cool. I got quite a bit of footage from the show and the building from the inside so that you can have a look. I'll pop those bits of video at the end. I don't think that there's as much artwork as the Festival of Quilts, but it was still a really good show. I saw the Sew Over It store, which I was quite excited about, and everybody who's on the Sew Over It have like a YouTube channel where they tell you about what they've been making and things, so I saw some of the people that are on that show, so that was really good. Basically I just had so much fun looking at everything, and I was so good not buying anything, as you can see. Well, not buying anything, not buying too much. So that was so much fun, so I definitely recommend to go and see in that show. I know that there's a Knitting and Stitching show in Olympia and Harrogate as well. I've never been to those, but I've heard that the one in Ali Pali, the one I went to, is the best one. It's the busiest one. So that I would definitely recommend that as well. So the last section, I'm just going to talk a bit about shop update. Now I haven't had a big shop update since the last podcast, but I have updated it with a new design. So I'd made this pumpkin bag. If I open it up, you can see the pumpkin a bit better. So I've done some appliqued pumpkin, and then I've done free motion stitching to do the sort of leafy bit on the top of the bag. And this is done in a nice soft calico material, and all my bags have got like a polyester wadding inside so that they can be sort of creased up, and then you can iron them flat again, because it annoys me using the interfacing on bags, because once you've then screwed it up it never really lies as flat as it did to start with. So there we go, I've done some of those I've had quite a few orders for. I did free Mosin stitching of Craft House Magic and a little mini pumpkin on the back, which I really like. So thank you guys for ordering these bags if you've placed an order. I've put it as pre-orders so that I can make them as and when people order them, and they'll normally be posted out a couple of days after the order, as long as I can keep up. If there is any delay, I'll give you a message. So the next shop update will be on the 1st of November at 7 o'clock, and it's on a Wednesday this time. So I have lots of new things up there. I've been working on some book covers, and I'm hoping to have time to make up some scissor cases and some needle cases before the next update too, so keep an eye out for those. I post photographs on Instagram of things I'm working on, so you can keep up to date there. But I think that's everything for today. So I shall see you on the next podcast, hopefully, and I hope you have a lovely crafty time. Bye!